Welcome to episode 42 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's podcast, I catch up with AFL social media manager Tyson Densley, ready for the start of the AFL season. And we look at the world of football Twitter banter. Do you dare to Zlatan?
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for the sports digital marketer.
And now, here's your host, who is looking forward to playing a game of pickup in Miami in July, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yes, I am pretty much focusing all of my rehab to be ready to hit the blacktop in Miami when I'm over there for SEAT 2014. So if you are thinking about coming along, definitely do so. It's going to be a great conference. I've been looking over the agenda with Christine over the last couple of weeks, and it's really coming along nicely. So simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/SEAT, SEAT 2014, and get your tickets. This week's show, I have a chat with Tyson Densley, social media manager for the AFL. Look at user-generated content campaigns, finding the balance on platforms as a league as opposed to a team, and which platforms are delivering results for the AFL. Later in the podcast, I have a chat with Kevin Hillier from SEN Halftime on those social media numbers that we chat about with Tice in the AFL and the NRL, and look at Facebook, versus Twitter, and then also look at the world of football. Some fun between the English football account and the Socceroos. Some sounds of the game from a really big A-League game. So I'll have a look at the latest changes to Facebook pages. And yes, it is a tongue twister, but do you dare to Zlatan? Some really funny tweets and a Nike campaign coming up. And more about the Sports Geek One Day Educational later in the show. But first, here's my chat with Tyson Densley from the AFL. Okay, very happy to welcome on the Sports Geek podcast as the AFL season is about to kick off the social media manager for the AFL, Tyson Densley. Welcome to the podcast, Tice.
Thanks, Sean. Great to be here.
So, very busy week. AFL season kicks off with this damn split round that takes forever.
Yeah.
With Collingwood kicking off on Friday night versus Freo. What's it like in at AFL headquarters this week?
Yeah, it's been pretty hectic. The long weekend that we had in Victoria doesn't really help us leading into round one. We want as much time as we can to get everything together. So basically, what we're finding this year that we probably haven't found other years is that every stakeholder at the AFL wants social integration. So we've been trying to drive it for years, obviously, but everybody's starting to see the sort of tangible results now, and we're starting to get more and more requests, which is both great and more challenging for us to squeeze everything in and get all our campaigns ready in time for round one.
So I was talking to Michael Briggs from the ARU in the previous episode last week. Give us an idea of what's the team at AFL Media, and then sort of diving more into the social team.
Yeah, so we have a team of about 105 at AFL Media, which there's a huge content arm there. So we've got sort of about 25 people in the editorial team. A journo sort of covering each team, some of those based interstate where we have a couple of teams in WA, South Australia and Queensland, New South Wales. So then we have a pretty big video department as well. So we produce a lot of studio shows, both our own and for clubs and for non-football related stuff as well. So it's really a bit of a publishing house. We have a custom publishing team as well, so a really big design team. And then the social team, we're trying to grow, but still we have grown this season. We've gone from a huge 2 members up to 3, so we're really looking forward to being able to devote more time to it. We've sort of been stretching ourselves a little bit. With one, I sort of look after the strategy and work Monday to Friday, and Dion Bennett and Anne Federowicz cover the games. So Dion last year did every game. The year before that I did every game, so looking forward to splitting that up and make things a little bit less crazy for Anne and Dion.
Well, people who listen to the podcast and have read stuff on the site would know Dion's former sports geeker, so it's good to see that he's succeeding, doing quite well in the AFL space.
Training very well.
So effectively AFL Media is for the people who are listening, who are not in Australia, it's very similar to the Major League Baseball advanced media sort of model, where you're building up that that business and providing more support to the clubs, as well as providing your own effectively media outlet for AFL themselves.
Yeah, that's probably right. NFL Network as well as MLB Advanced Media. So, we're seeing it all around the world that content is so rich for every organisation that it makes sense for someone like the AFL with such a huge fan base to produce the content, and we're sort of seeing the results with AFL.com.au being the biggest sports site in Australia.
And and it has been, you were saying before how social is now becoming the thing that everyone wants, and you're becoming a bit of a, hey, we want social to be part of it, and what was it, three years ago, John Simpson was running AFL in the media. Now he's at Twitter. Now you're doing more campaigns that are integrated across all the things. Do you want to take us through some of the stuff that you've been doing in this off-season leading into the season?
Yeah, so it's probably nothing entirely new, but we've been doing a lot of user-generated campaigns just as a way to generate interest in the season, to get everyone talking about footy, getting out there and showing us that they're huge footy fans. So we ran the number one AFL fan comp across February, where we put out a search for an official fan ambassador, at each club. So we asked fans to share videos and photos just showing us that they were crazy footy fans.
So what platforms were being engaged in that? I saw a few of my mates, Josh Rose, a mad Tiger man. He's like, vote for my photo. I'm like, Josh, you're 40, nearly 40. You're not 12, but because you do get all types when you run those kind of things.
We do.
What platforms were you using for that?
Yeah, so we asked fans to send in content on Twitter, Instagram, Vine, YouTube. We didn't use Facebook for that campaign. We used Stackler to aggregate all the content.
Yep.
And it's a little bit more difficult with Facebook with the privacy settings. Yep. Yeah. So we didn't have Facebook. We had all the other major platforms, and we aggregated those with Stackler on a page on the website. And we also had prizes, not just for showing us you're the number one fan, but also prizes just for voting as well. So we had a ton of fans jumping on just to vote. If they weren't in footy mode yet, it was still cricket season for them. They didn't want to get out there and have a kick or throw on all their heavy winter merchandise. They were still able to vote for their other favourites and make sure that the fan that won for their club was the right representative.
And so where does that? So you're sort of saying it's a year-long thing. So where do those fans? How are they going to be sort of part of the content plan for AFL going forward?
Yeah. So the competition was just leading into the NAB Challenge for the pre-season, but the major winners at each club are going to get some behind-the-scenes access, running out with their team, getting into the rooms, that kind of thing, as well as, the usual merchandise and sharings and that kind of thing to pump up the season as well. So number one AFL fan, that ran throughout the NAB Challenge and finished a couple of weeks ago. And we've turned that around and launched a Trick Kicks comp straight away. So again, that's using Stackler, but we've enabled Facebook integration with this one. So we had switched off the capability for fans to post on our Facebook wall just because we've got such a huge audience and we didn't have the resources to answer all the questions that were coming in.
And it's pretty common. I mean, once you do get to a certain volume, things like letting people post on your wall, you pretty much, again, being a league, you're a big target.
Yep.
If you have any beef, it's easy to get. And, yourself and Anne and Dion read the AFL tweets every week of complaining about things. So, it's natural now. We've turned it off for nearly every club because you can't manage it.
Yeah. So we've turned it back on at the moment just as an experiment, as a way to collate the entries for the Trick Kicks competition, where we're just asking fans to film their videos of some trick kicks, and we've had some players send in videos as well. But yeah, we did find it difficult because we post so often to Facebook. We've got so much content. Our key role is to drive fans to afl.com.au to consume our content. So we have so much content that we need to post out that we found that we had posts from 3 days ago or 20 posts ago that fans were still asking questions on, and it was just a little bit difficult to track those. So we don't guarantee that we'll respond to every question on Facebook. We try to do that on Twitter. It's sort of easier for us to follow the mentioned stream, and we're probably at a point where we need to sort of invest in some software with Facebook that we can better track those questions.
So that monitoring and that customer service side. But I mean, the thing is, a lot of it, you've got 18 clubs that are doing a lot of that customer service side with their fans. So and then you're probably splitting up from a social point of view to have AFL members managed via, AFL member type social accounts. So how much has that grown from that initial, at AFL and AFL Facebook page to start splitting the focus of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we've stayed pretty narrow and focused on Facebook. The only other page that we run is the AFL fantasy page. And when I say we run, we've actually got the Dream Team Talk Boys looking after.
Yeah, so Adam is a listener, and he's sort of following the same path as Lee Ellis, who is now on the starters to sort of be taken in by the league.
Yeah, no, they're doing a great job with those accounts. Last year we just couldn't do it justice because fantasy is just so enormous. The year before we had a journo dedicated to interacting with the fans, helping them with their trades and their decisions leading into each round. And last year we didn't have that journo, so we just couldn't do it justice. So I'm really glad we've got the guys in this year, and it's been fantastic.
So you've done the trick shots kind of stuff. The other stuff I wanted to ask you about was you ran and asked the coach, and getting, and coaches. I've trained a few and sort of explained to them why social media is there and why they should be on it and how they should engage. And in the AFL, there's a few coaches on social media and there's a few that are not. Yep. How did they find the ask the coach sort of thing and take us through it? And then what was the fans' reaction?
Yeah, I must admit I was a little bit nervous when I threw up the idea. I knew we had the coaches coming in to do a bit of a pre-season media segment, to film some videos, chat to our journos, that kind of thing. I asked, if we were able to have some access, have the coaches for half an hour to answer questions with the fans, and we did that just on Twitter with the Ask the Coach hashtag. I was a bit nervous, but some of the younger coaches are on there and know how to use it well. But when it comes to Mick Malthouse and Ross Lyon and some of those guys that can be pretty cold and short in press conferences, I thought they might not be great on Twitter when it comes to answering fan questions. But once they sat down, they all bought into it. They actually enjoyed that. They were getting different questions that they wouldn't usually get. Fans just wanted to know what book they were enjoying at the moment, some funny stuff from around the club, who's the most annoying player, all that kind of stuff that fans love to hear about. And once the coaches sat down, we had so many questions rolling in that they enjoyed sometimes being able to pick and choose which questions they were able to answer. But the majority of them said, no, you tell me which one you want me to answer and we'll get to it. So that worked really well. Fans just don't usually have that direct access.
And so from we've done sort of Twitter chats and those kind of things with clubs. Did you then take that content, because, Twitter is great if you're on Twitter, but there's still a lot of people that haven't yet figured out what Twitter is. And, we've got the stats there of comparing the AFL and NRL, and Twitter's numbers compared to Facebook are, 3-1 in the AFL from a club land point of view. Did you take that content and then repurpose it back on AFL.com.au to say, if you weren't online or you weren't tweeting at that time, here's all the answers that Mick Malthouse or Paul Roos answered?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what we did. So we used Twitter custom timelines for some as more of an experiment. Others we just used the more traditional, embedding the fan question and embedding the tweet, and put that straight up on the website, because of some of the coaches, we could only grab them, when they were from interstate. We could only grab them when they were over here for their NAB Challenge games, so they might come in really early in the morning, and we know that that's not prime time for Twitter, so we made sure that we repurposed that on the website, and those articles are really popular.
And so, again, it's a similar question to what I had for Michael last week with the Wallabies, and similar to what we do with the A-League. At a league level, it's social is a different beast than at a club level. So, if you're Collingwood or Carlton or Essendon or whatever, you are for your fans and you don't really care about the other fans.
Yeah,
whereas, you have to, you're Switzerland in this, you've got to be neutral and not you've got to barrack for the game.
Yep.
How tough is that balance on what you provide on social to be as impartial as you can be?
Yeah, that is a challenge. We, as far as the content that we put out there, we know that the stuff that involves all 18 clubs is going to be far more popular. And we also have a bit of a challenge in that we don't have the access that some people might think that we do have. So we have a really big community, but we're not at training every day. We're not always at every game, which is a resource issue. Whereas the clubs are right there for every step of the way. So we don't try to produce the same content as clubs. We try to complement what the clubs are doing. We work together to support their campaigns, and they support the campaigns that we're running as well. But it is something that we're pushing to get more of, and that's access at games, which is going to come when we have more members of our team, because as the traditional round works, there's so many overlapping games that we need to be able to provide coverage of all of the games and not just focus on the blockbusters or anything like that.
Yeah, and it is a fine line, because you're part, league custodian, information provider, but then also you're the curator of all the news. And so, again, Essendon has a big win, and it's probably a bad example of Essendon and the relationship from last year, but Essendon have a big win, and you retweet that, and everyone starts going, "Oh, the AFL are playing favourites," or you promote a tweet that the Giants are doing because they're doing a great activation, and it's like, "Oh, you're promoting them over my team," and because every fan's looking at it through their one eye.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance, because we do sit within the AFL media team, which technically is independent of the AFL and is really working towards becoming independent, and for the most part it really is. But at the same time, we claim to be the official counter of the AFL, so it's an interesting balance. We watch with interest, when Cricket Australia set up their independent arm, and they've sort of really diversified that they are independent. Whereas we think we've got the balance right, in that you can be the official account of the league, but you can also provide independent articles. So one day we might be having a bit of a joke with, about something that's happened on the ground, and the next day we might be tweeting about an official press release that's something that's really important news and nothing to joke around about. But we see it the same way as, you might watch a news bulletin on TV, you'll have your serious info at the start, and then you might have some more entertaining stuff, towards the end of that. So we think that it's something that we're sort of striking the right balance with, but it is a constant challenge. But I think all community managers have those challenges with fans, where they'll often think that you're driving an agenda, but I can guarantee you that we're not. We're just trying to provide coverage and act as if we are fans. We have a great job in that we're able to sit there and consume games and tweet about it as though we're a fan. And really, that's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to, produce the content that we know we'd like to see if we were a fan.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much following the same league as, the NBA, the NFL, MLB. You're still the official account, even though you are, are a separate arm and those kind of things. But when people read it from the AFL, it is from the AFL.
Yeah, exactly.
That whole, cricket changing their Twitter handle and saying that we're CA Digital. To me, that, I understood the reasons behind it to be independent, but to me, now I can't barrack for Cricket Australia, because it's not not the Australian cricket team, it's a digital department.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to say, I love my AFL, and go, oh, hang on, that means it's AFL media. So if you take that same sort of, premise, when people say they love the MLB, they're not talking about loving BAM.
Yeah.
They're talking about loving the game. So I think that's a distinction that is, is really important. I'm looking forward to actually teeing up the time to talk to the guys at CA about the reasoning behind that decision and why it came about.
Yeah, we think as long as we educate the fans and we're open with the fans about who we claim to be, so we're the official camp, in our Twitter bio, but we say as well as the latest news, analysis, opinion, and that kind of thing. So I think fans know what they're going to get from us. And
so going back to sort of touched on before the size of Facebook numbers and Twitter numbers, and I've got the stats there for all the clubs, and there's a few clubs that have gone over 200k. The same two clubs, Essendon and Collingwood, have gone over 50,000 in Twitter followers. Facebook is still it's like 3-1 at club level.
Yep.
What are you seeing? From the platforms, just from a trends point of view, are you seeing a spike in traffic? Are you seeing more engagement with the latest changes? Those kind of things.
Yeah. So we went through. We spend a lot of time studying Facebook's edge rank algorithm, because we have so much content to promote that we don't want to post too often. So we know that as soon as we post again, it's more likely to drop our previous post out of the feed. And on any given day, we might have 10 videos and 50 articles that hit the website that we have to choose whether or not we want to put it to Facebook or not. So we study the algorithm a lot, but we're still finding that we find that text-only posts on Facebook, and I don't know, I hope I'm not getting too technical, but text-only posts on Facebook reach a lot more fans, and for us that's great. Posts with photos are going to get more engagement, but as a general rule, they'll reach less people. So we want to reach as many people as we can, but we still want to provide those great photos.
So again, one thing that we've found, yes, like one thing I tell people is don't fall in love with the reach stats because sometimes they're always changing.
Yep.
But what we've found, especially in the last 3 months, since Facebook made that tweak to its news feed, is that they do want links as opposed to a text feed. So, so we've been sort of migrating a lot of our teams across to say use links more.
Yep.
If you put a picture up, it's easy to share and people are going to like if it's a picture of their favourite player, obviously.
Yep.
But the difference between the model that we used to do and the model that I taught Dion was here. Dion used it, and he did all the testing. He did the testing of what was the best size image that would work and look great, and we came up with it. It was like 404 by 404 square, and it was a nice big image. And he's still probably using that because that is the biggest one. But now, if you share a link and you bring in that upload image or put in your own custom one, that whole image is clickable back to the website. So they're not clicking the image to look at the image again.
Yep.
And you can customize the link underneath it. So, and what we're seeing is Facebook is serving up that more.
Yeah.
Which from an edge, so it's tweaking the edge rank a little bit, and obviously serving that up more means more fans like it.
Yeah.
And we're really seeing a big spike in the number of likes in the last 3 months. So it's not just because footy season's coming around. We're seeing it both in AFL land and NRL land and cricket.
Yep.
That like spike is really, really happening, and part of that is the story bumping stuff that Facebook has. But I've sort of been telling all of my teams to play around with it, but that they're really pushing the link side of it to be the way that they go about it.
Yeah, and page managers need to be really mindful and just sort of remember what their key objectives are. So our key objective is to drive that traffic to the website. So we are pretty heavy on links, but we also have some awesome videos and photos to share. So we mix it up all the time. But we find that when I say text only, I mean with a link included, but we'll generally remove the thumbnail because we find that reaches almost twice as many people as a post with a thumbnail. But we really like to mix it up. And one of the latest trends we're finding is that Facebook is giving a lot more preference to native videos than YouTube videos.
Definitely, yeah.
And I think that's because they're about to roll out their video ad product. So I think they want people to become familiar with their native ads.
So everything with Facebook is always native, and the videos. Again, I have seen you put out a few short videos in the Facebook natively. Yep. We've done it as well. Especially when you're rolling out, a brand campaign or something that's super, as a way to put a bit of a tease there. So,
and that's one product we're just about to launch for this season is instant highlights, instant videos with Snappy TV. So that's
the Twitter Amplify stuff.
Yeah. So we've seen the NBA use it with the slam dunk contest, and it's just those instant replays. So they have those up on Twitter, and you can also embed them in Facebook within about 15 seconds of them happening. So we over the next 2 or 3 weeks, that should be rolling out to us, and we're really looking forward to being able to sort of get some great hangers and great goals out there on Twitter within, hopefully 30 seconds of them happening in the broadcast.
Yeah, so we spoke about, they had that at the Aussie Open, so Kim Tringove and those guys had that kind of stuff, and that's where it is, tune in TV. It's like, wow, I saw that, better tune in.
Absolutely.
The quicker you can turn it around, the better it is.
Yeah, and I remember when I first started, there was some hesitation as to whether we should be providing video highlights. Is it taking away from the broadcast? But it's that education process and showing that, if a fan sees a 5-second highlight video on Twitter, they don't decide, I don't need to watch the game now because I saw a great mark. They're going to tune in, if anything. So that's something that we're really looking forward to rolling out this season.
It's good because it's going to stop people watching. No, it's not.
No.
People see something. If you find out that Gary Ablett's on fire, you tune in. You don't go and say
that's not enough.
It's not enough. And so the good thing about the Amplify products is that you can say, tune in here and send them to the app and get an app subscription. And so if I am at a bar and I can't get to a TV, I can watch it there and then. And
exactly.
Everything that teams and leagues have done around the world, as far as sharing highlight clips on YouTube and stuff like that, none of it has come back to say, that stops people watching TV.
No.
If anything, it makes them watch it more.
Yeah, and that's and when you see our instant highlight videos, you'll notice there'll be some directives in the banners above and below the video, driving you to download the app AFL Live. And just on that, there's been a huge update to our app in the last couple of days. So there's a new AFL Live pass everyone's interested in data at the moment. Obviously, that's it's something that is in our long-term objectives to get to know our fans better. So there's a new AFL login process where when fans join as the AFL Live Pass, it's not just live streaming now, it's also advanced stats. Well, it's advanced in the world of AFL with shot charts and heat maps and those kinds of things. So that's something that is rolling out over the next few days. So that'll be up in time for round 1. So if you haven't updated your AFL app, make sure you do it.
Well, I will include the links to the official AFL app on all platforms. Yep. So it's on Apple, Android, tablets.
Yep.
I'll include them. And looking forward to the season ahead. Just to finish up, what are your goals from a social point of view for the AFL?
Yeah, so we still feel like there's a lot of AFL fans out there that we can add to our community. So we're still driving that growth agenda of our social media accounts. But I think this instant video product is something that we're really looking forward to. So we're also, as well as that, we're hoping that the instant replays will drive more conversation during the game, and we're hoping to take that and use that in a lot more of our products. So the 10, which is a weekly video, it's the top 10 highlights of the round. That's something that we're going to crowdsource this season. So if you see a huge highlight, we want fans to tweet hashtag AFL the 10.
So effectively the same, similar to SportsCenter 10, yeah.
That's right. So using Twitter custom timelines and the more live studio shows we're doing, we're looking at ways to bring in fan tweets. One of our journos, Ash Brown, is writing a Sunday column that's effectively just answering fan questions that have come in through Twitter. So with the hashtag after the siren, he's looking for questions every week. And we've just explained to our media department that we have this huge community. We should be using it. We've got such a passionate fan base. They're talking to us all the time. Let's use some of these great questions we're getting from the fans and great interaction and enhance the products that we're already doing. So that's something that we're looking forward to improving this season, is just the use of that fan engagement that we love.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I'm sure I'll see you at the footy sometime during the year.
Absolutely.
And good luck for the season ahead.
No worries. Good luck with the Pies, and go Dogs.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Tyson for joining me and coming into Sports Geek HQ for that chat. I know it's a busy week, the week before season kicks off. As I said, kicks off tonight. So I have to actually get this podcast out today, Friday, with my beloved Pies taking on grand finalist Fremantle at Etihad Stadium. So both the AFL and the NRL will be in full swing here in Australia and really dominating the sports social landscape. Just a few things on that thing. How have you found Facebook posting? What strategies are working for you? Are you going with a text-only post that Tyson was talking about and seeing the extra reach? Or are you moving towards what we're seeing, especially with some of our clubs, is moving towards using more links and really pushing that news feed changes that Zuck seems to want everyone to have a personalised newspaper. So they're really pushing links. I'd love to hear your notes in the comments, or send me a tweet at Sean Callanan. I'd love to know what you think. Also, how have you gone with user-generated campaigns like Tyson was talking about there with their Trick Shots campaign and Number One Fan campaign? I'll actually be putting out a bit of a call for great campaigns. I'm actually putting together a keynote for Seat, similar to the one that I did last year around digital campaigns. And I really want to showcase some of the best around the world. So I'll be putting a form up on the website. I do my best to keep track of what everybody is doing. But if you've done a really great campaign and you don't think it's got the limelight it deserves, please send me an email, Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. Tell me about it. I'd love to know about it. But yeah, also I'll be setting up a form to sort of capture some of that detail, because I want to really showcase some of the best campaigns from around the world for my Seat keynote. So my next discussion is Kevin Hillier was filling in for half this week, and the discussion we had there with Tyson, we talked about AFL and NRL social media numbers. I chatted with Kevin about that on SEN.
Sean Callanan, our sports digital media guru for sportsgeekhq.com.
14-3. Daniel Harford off with family commitment today, so I'm in here. G'day, Sean. G'day, Kev. How you doing?
I'm going very well, thank you. Now, we've got the NRL season underway, and we've got the AFL season starting this week. Are we going to see a massive impact on social media with these two monoliths about to collide?
Well, it is a good time to just check in with the numbers, see where everyone's sitting. As you said, the NRL got off to a really good start online, if not in the stands. A bit of concern about the crowd sizes and things like that. But online, going gangbusters both leagues. So it just provides a really good comparison of how the fans of different leagues are tackling the two major platforms, Facebook and Twitter.
It's always been the difference between the two sports, and having worked in a rugby league state and obviously down here and born here and stuff, people do want to know about the NRL, but they don't necessarily want to go.
Well, yeah, I think that's a historical thing. It's a bit more made for TV.
Yep.
It's a product that does work very well on TV, and it is travel issues. They don't have the convenience of being able to walk down to the MCG Etihad straight from a pub in the CBD. They've got to, catch a train out to ANZ Stadium and things like that. So there are other difficulties there, and it's the fact that they could just sit at home, watch the NRL in high def at home or at a pub does make a bit of a difference. But from a social point of view, it's interesting to see that from a Facebook point of view, the NRL fans love their NRL on Facebook, but from a Twitter point of view, the AFL sort of holds the lead.
Does that surprise you that there's that demarcation between the two?
Oh, not really. There's a few little outliers there that always help twist the stats. So the Broncos are well and truly way out in front as far as overall numbers. With nearly over, they're about to approach 350,000 Facebook fans, which is an amazing number, but you've also got to remember the historical significance. The Broncos pretty much had Queensland as a whole state behind them for a good 20 years, and it also shows that the one team town sort of thing does help. So the Melbourne Storm, same, pretty much have everyone in Melbourne behind them lead the way.
Jeez. Nearly 300,000.
Yeah, well, when you've got their, and they're really, the uptick of Facebook has been really big in the last couple of months in the changes that Facebook's made to try to get more content out to fans. So it's become a real big content platform.
There's two levels here, isn't there? There's the way the league uses the two platforms, and then there's the way the clubs use the two platforms. Is the leagues using them well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, again, from a league point of view, hopefully it's not evil, but the NRL are at 666. The
Devil's Game.
The Devil's Game. And the AFL, I'm sure, will get an uptick once the season starts. But it's a real traffic driver. Facebook, that's where fans are getting a lot of their news. Yep. And what we're finding is a lot of fans will follow their team. So, you'll follow the Doggies. Yep. And I think that's partly because there's a like button. Like, as a Collingwood fan, it's very hard to hit the like button next to a Carlton logo. So from a Facebook point of view, most fans are following their own team. But from a Twitter point of view, because it is a bit of breaking news, it's conversational, it's something you can watch while you're watching the TV shows or listening to SEN. A lot of people are following multiple teams, so they're getting the news, finding out who's ins and out, and those kind of things. Because the teams are really, really good, and that's where the breaking news is. But the concern is that there's only, again, there are only estimates because we don't have the numbers. There's 13 million people now on Facebook, or around about that number. Yep. But there's only around 3 million on Twitter. So,
why is that? Because Twitter is great. I'm not an interactive person in terms of putting stuff up, but in terms of garnering information, Twitter's fantastic.
Oh yeah, completely agree. And you are in that camp of once you're in Twitter, it's awesome. But it's the getting the person that's not on Twitter to figure out why. Yeah. Why am I doing that? Why are you looking at these messages? So that's a problem that Twitter is trying to solve both here in Australia and also around the world. To say, what is it like being a new person on Twitter? Like, it's not like it was ages ago when you would come on. It was a small community. You knew a lot of people. Now there are a lot of people. There's a lot of noise. So who do you follow? That kind of thing. So part of what sports has done well is said, jump on Twitter because you're going to get a bit of extra information. You're going to find the changes to the teams. So that's one of the reasons people get on Twitter. But then they're sort of, what do I do next? How do I use this platform? And that's something, so as it gets integrated with TV, gets put in, the conversation happens with things like the block and the voice and that kind of thing. That's when more people start jumping on. We saw, last week with the Oscars and Ellen doing a selfie and it got 3 million retweets. It's those kind of moments that Twitter needs to get more people on board. But at the moment, all the numbers say, in the AFL, there's 3-1 Facebook to Twitter numbers, and in the NRL it's like 5-1. So there's real opportunity from a growth point of view, from a Twitter audience point of view. But
are people a bit scared of Twitter to get on Twitter, that they think it's going to take over their lives, or
potentially. There's some. There's people like Andrew Dimitri who says he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to share, what he's having for lunch. And that's a really old style thought of what Twitter is. And it's not that.
You can be passive on it. You don't have to.
And that's the thing. 40% of people on Twitter don't tweet. So they do use it as a news resource. So they would follow their footy teams. They would follow SEN. They would follow Half to, hear his commentary on the game. So that once people do get that and understand that fact, that growth will come. But at the moment, there's only 2 teams out of that whole list that have more than 50,000 Twitter followers, and that's Collingwood and Essendon. So, and they're nowhere near the numbers of, 100,000, that kind of thing in Facebook land.
So, from a business point of view for a club, that's a great upside.
Yep. It is a great upside, and the main thing is it's not necessarily about these numbers. It's about converting these numbers. So even though Collingwood and Essendon have got 200,000, it's about converting them into members. So it's these numbers are a great little benchmark to say yes, we've ticked this off. But it's really how can you convert and how can you tell the story for your fans to convert them to become a member. So it might not necessarily need to have the 350,000 the Broncos have. If you can get a really high conversion rate to get more people to be members, then that's great, and that's what you're focused on. So that's the thing that those numbers don't show. They don't show the conversion of a fan seeing all your content, building that relationship, and then when you say, hey, there's a mini membership or come to our games and start converting.
There's a Twitter membership that you can do.
Yeah, potentially. But there's a few teams sort of working towards, digital-only membership. So if you can't come to the game, that kind of thing. Yep. But, you want to build a relationship with your fan and keep them in touch with the club. And that's what Facebook and Twitter and that offer.
Peter's in Montana has given us a buzz. G'day, Pete.
Yeah, guys, I am a little bit ambivalent about the whole social media, and I think it's very easy for people to criticise, Andrew Demetrio as being old-fashioned about Twitter. The reality is a lot of social media is just whispers in a crowd. Yes, you do have people engaging, but at the end of the day, it's all about dollars. And I wonder whether the amount of expenditure on Twitter justifies the returns, because, yes, Collingwood might have 200,000 Facebook followers or whatever the gentleman said, but the reality is unless you can prove that, you're converting these people into memberships and therefore generating revenue, all you're doing is enabling them to talk, and that can be a very expensive exercise in terms of moderating, monitoring, responding, etc., etc.
Oh, I completely agree, Peter, and that's what I was just saying, that you've got to have a strategy to convert. I mean, I can give you plenty of case studies of teams engaging their fans, driving more traffic, getting more eyeballs to their website, and driving more fans into their database so they can start sending them email newsletters. It definitely has helped the bottom line for clubs because it does drive membership, it does drive merchandise sales, and it does drive ticketing. But you're right, if you don't have a strategy behind that, you are just someone just creating noise and not driving your goals.
Good on you, Pete. Thanks for your call. Now, you got a workshop coming up?
Yes, we've got a one-day educational. So I'm going to do a one-day workshop sort of taking everyday businesses through how they can do it. And again, same as what Peter was just saying, there's no point just saying I'm going to be on Facebook because everybody else is. It's like, why are you on Facebook? Why would you Twitter? Why would you use Twitter, and why would you use things like Instagram? And they're not going to fit for every business, and they're not going to fit for every strategy that you're trying to do. But there is some really cool and innovative and cost-effective ways for businesses to reach customers more so than fans. We're not talking about
Yep.
cheer squads and things like that with footy.
Yep.
But there is the ability for you to grow your own fan base and grow your customers.
And when is it, and how do you find out?
So
about
it's
it?
March 31st. If you go to sportsgeekhq.com/ODE, and for halftime listeners, if they use the special code HALF, they get $50 off.
Oh, beauty.
yes. So
Good offer.
send me a tweet at Sean Callanan if you've got any questions.
All right, good on you, Sean. Thanks for coming in as per usual.
Learn from Sports Geek at our Sports Geek ODE one-day educational. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/ODE.
So I will link in the show notes to that AFL and NRL post comparing the Facebook and Twitter numbers of all the teams. Check it out. Any comments you have, much appreciated. I'll probably be breaking that down with a few other leagues and having a look at how they are going around the world in the next coming weeks. Social media post of the week. Congratulations and some nice Twitter banter between the New England football account and the Socceroos. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. Good work there. But I really have to go with the Nike campaign led by Sweden and Paris Saint-Germain striker Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And I think I'm getting that wrong completely, but check out the Dare to Zlatan tweets. Really having a lot of fun with the platform, even asking Twitter to change the 140 character limit because he wanted to say more to his fans. Had a lot of fun with it. This week's Sounds of the Game, thanks to Brian Gibson for sending it through. It's from the A-League derby match between Sydney FC and the West Sydney Wanderers. 40,000 people sounded like this. Yeah, so quite amazing scenes there at Allianz Stadium with both the Wanderers fans and the Sydney FC fans getting right behind. Really great club atmosphere. Speaking of Brian during the week, he did say it was one of the best games he's been to live, and it is the best way to experience sport. In my humble opinion, I'm looking forward to catching a few games this weekend. So that leaves me to dedicating this episode, and that is why you can hear that clock ticking in the background. This is episode 42, so you can find the show notes at sportsgeekhq.com, and taking the early nomination from Martwell60 on Twitter, who nominated Collingwood legend and great, who was unfortunately killed in a car accident at age 26 in 1991. He wore the number 42 with distinction. It has now been retired by the Collingwood Football Club. Darren Mullane is who I'm dedicating this episode to. Okay, wrapping up this episode, don't forget the Sports Geek one-day educational, as I said there on the spot with halftime. That's on March 31. We'll be covering things like Facebook advertising, how to use custom audiences, how to reach new fans. We've been running a few campaigns with a few clubs around membership and brand campaigns for the start of the season. So really on top of that at the moment. You would have also seen, and I'll put a link in the show notes, that Facebook are changing pages once again and newsfeed again. So it's always an ever moving target, Facebook. Primarily they're making pages look more like personal pages. So single column, tabs, effectively getting the boot, but that doesn't really matter. Most tabs and applications have really died off recently. It's all about using mobile forms more so than apps. So yeah, some changes there. Again, link in the show notes. They're going to be rolling out soon. It's something to be really aware of, what changes and where they're headed. And just a quick reminder, don't forget the Manchester United Google Plus front row activation that we discussed back on episode 40 with Oscar Ugaz. That's happening on March 16. So keep an eye on Man United's Google page or all their properties. They will put it on all their properties to see how that goes. I'm really interested to see how it looks and how it looks at Old Trafford with the fans' heads there bobbing along next to the pitch. So the final plug is for the podcast. Again, thank you very much for all the tweets and the messages that I get about the podcast. Any feedback, please are more than welcome to get it either via Twitter or via email. If you want to have a listen to sort of the insights of podcasting itself, we did a podcast on podcasting on Beers Blokes Business. So if you go to beersblokesbusiness.com/episode 31, where I do take a little bit behind the scenes of how I've built this podcast and also how I've built the Beers Blokes podcast. So if you're looking at podcasting, have a listen to that one. Well, that's time for the closing 2 cents. And this one goes out to the King James. And the message is, be careful what you tweet. LeBron was unfortunately having problems with his mobile phone, and he tweeted that his phone had died. But unfortunately, his sponsor is Samsung. He deleted the tweet, but nevertheless, you've got to be careful.
Now, I love what you've done with the name, by the way. The One Day International, the One Day Educational. Monday, 31st of March, 2014 at the Honey Bar. Check it out for guides. SportsGeekHQ.com is the place to go to find out a whole lot more about it.
Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes.
Listen to Beers, Blokes, and Business at beersblokesbusiness.com.
Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.